Good evening. My name is Laura Schifrin, and I'm the chairman of the Townsend Housing Authority. Calling the meeting to order at 7 p.m. I'd like to go for a roll call now. Jazz, can we start with you?
Jazz Sexton Duranian.
Laura Schifrin, chairman.
Carol Toll.
Beth Coleman, resident of Townsend Woods.
Thank you. I'd like to announce that the meeting is being recorded this evening. And if you would all join me and rise for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank all of our veterans for their service who are present here this evening, and also those at home. We owe a debt of gratitude to all of you. Next on the agenda is the additions, deletions to the agenda unforeseen prior to 48 hours of this meeting. Yesterday, I was informed of a procedural aspect of our agenda, which has to do within our work session, the executive session where we had votes may be taken. Those can't be done in executive session, so our vote will be taken in open session, and that will happen after we do the interviews for the vacant seat. I apologize for not knowing that procedure, but as a volunteer, I learn every day. So, and then I think that's all that I have to change for that. So if everyone is okay with that, we actually don't have a choice. We're just announcing it. Okay. All right. Next on the agenda, the draft of the May 9th meeting minutes have been sent to all the board members, and any feedback that may have been given has already been reflected on that, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of May 9th, 2018.
Second.
Approved.
There's a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Thank you very much. And then under the chairman's report and the hard copy and our computer access and all of that, I was just going to briefly explain where we were at this point. We have had some help from one of the staff members here to give us some access to some of the previous files that were in a computer that we did not have access to. So, and Chaz has also arranged with our IT person that we have an email address that's it's housing@Townsend. .mass. Okay, .us. That's our email address, if anybody has any housing questions. And at this point, we have files that Carol began to go through as clerk, and they are in disarray. It was mentioned at the last meeting, and they continue to be. However, we have received some files via email that we've not had a chance to address yet, or even finish reading or going through, which should give us some more knowledge about the past actions of the board and also the town, and what our role may or may not be. One of the things that I have not been able to find yet, and it could be just due to my lack of having enough time for the research, is at one point in time, and I don't know the year, the Housing Authority was established by a town meeting vote. I don't know what that motion was, and I don't know what the description is that goes with the Housing Authority. Even though I participated in the Housing Authority for maybe 14 or 15 years, we did always have staff guidance who basically did the agendas, did the minutes, told us what we needed to do and what we didn't need to do, asked for our input, but basically it was the staff that guided us for our responsibilities. So firsthand reading of what the town voted in for us to be doing, I do not have. I don't know that anybody else on this board has that. Did you see the town meeting vote?
I don't have the town meeting vote, but I have gone through some of the information that was provided to us, and it's really my best source of information has been with Karen Chapman, who was here last year, and I have her last annual report dated 2016 as the land use coordinator, which really outlined a lot of what her duties at that particular time were. What she helped the Housing Authority with, along with the many other committees and things that she had worked on as well.
And that has been sent to our liaison to the Board of Selectmen, and so hopefully they will take that into consideration. And that kind of leads into the 705 with you, Sue Licio, as... Okay. He didn't hear the question, so yes. Do you want to come sit right here and use this? Just pull a chair, or you can sit at the end, whichever you want. So I didn't know we'd have an issue with.
Pardon me?
Yeah.
Point to the mic. Point that mic.
And I'm sorry for the sun. Oh my goodness.
Yes, it gets kind of bad in here sometimes. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for coming, Sue.
That's perfectly fine. Just a couple of things, and just quick updates. I know the back and forth that you've been having, and I did kind of glimpse at the 5-2 meeting.
Yeah.
Just to kind
May
of get
2nd,
a feel
yeah.
for the kinds of things that you guys have been discussing. Sorry that I haven't been able to come to a lot of meetings, and I don't expect that I can come to a lot. But I'm hoping I can maybe facilitate some communication and problem solving or whatever, which is basically the role of the liaison. I don't represent the board when I'm sitting here, okay? I cannot make decisions or speak for the board. That needs to go back to them, okay? So some people get confused. They see a selectman and think, oh, the selectman's going to tell me everything. Nah. Okay, what we did do was I asked Mr. Kreidler the other day to reach out to town council because we had received a letter from the attorney. No, it's fine. I can put my sunglasses on. The RCAP attorney. And it seems that they thought there was some confusion about roles. When we talked to our attorney, the town council, the short of it is that RCAP, their oversight is not the Townsend Housing Authority. Their oversight is HUD for one of the buildings, and that same organization you just handed me that information for, it's DHCD.
Yep.
Department of Housing and Community Development. That's a Massachusetts organization.
Yes.
And I think they're pretty much in charge of all of the newer stuff anyway. So if there are complaints, what I would suggest, if you as board members or as a board get any complaints from any residents, the best thing for you to do is to point them back to their handbooks. All of them should have one. If they don't, they should ask for one. And what they should do is follow the procedure that's in the handbook. It's like a typical government grievance procedure. You start at this level, you document stuff. If you're not satisfied, you go to the next level and so on. And that's how things happen, okay? So that was one thing. I need to look at my little notes that I scribbled down.
So it's not our responsibility.
It is not your authority or responsibility. As a matter of fact, you should probably refrain from any kind of discussion about them because they have nothing to do with this board, okay? I'd just be very cautious about it. All right, we're all set with that. What I would like to say, though, is when I watched your other meeting, it seemed, and even tonight when Lori was talking, it seems like we're floundering a little bit, and it sounds like it's because you don't have a trained professional that you're working with. Many other towns, certainly cities, housing authorities, do have a professional. They may even have a full-time, highly paid professional. We've never gotten to that point. I think the need has been kind of like roller coaster. You know, when you think about it, when you're in the middle of doing something, there's a lot of work that has to be done, and then things slow down and things sometimes get lost in the shuffle. It doesn't help that, you know, we're pretty bare bones in terms of municipal employee help. Okay, if you look at the things that you see at the Mass Municipal Association and the selectmen's meetings that they have, and there's all kinds of organizations, and they lobby the state for new things all the time. It's like, I think we're really low men on the totem pole. We're like all of the small communities in Western Mass, and unless you band together or find resources that you can utilize for training and for establishing, you know, what direction do we need to go in, then, you know, you tend to be lost. So I would like to offer my help. What I'd like to do and what I plan on doing, if you would like me to, is to talk to Sheila Harrington, Representative Harrington, to see if we can have a conversation with the department, the housing department. I know of the gentleman who runs that. His name is Jay Ash, and we'll see if we can't explain where we're at, where you'd like to go, very briefly, and see if we can't get somebody in to help with that.
I have contacted that agency, and I actually had two people that I talked with to set up a meeting at some point, and they're more than willing to find us the right person for us to do, if it's Jay or somebody else.
Good. I doubt it will be Jay.
Yeah.
But certainly somebody on his staff might be able to direct us even. The other possible resources that we have are some of the other local housing authorities too. There are some that have paid staff that we could maybe beg, borrow, and steal for a little while, you know?
I have talked to someone in Groton in regards to that. And, she's been pointing me in the right direction for more resources as far as who we can talk to. It's hard for us to find, because we're such a unique island, you know, that our position is a little different. We don't have a trust, we don't have funding, we don't have...
It's very different.
Yeah.
It's very different. Most of the housing authorities that I looked at have, the town actually owns the property.
Yeah.
Townsend does not own the property. Townsend,
Owns the land only, it's still.
well, no, the land that's on the side of it, but the land that the building is on, we sold. Okay, so with the adjacent land, yes, but not,
When you say sold,
we actually entered into a sales agreement, and this came with the packet that I sent you, and I wasn't,
the whole board has received the packet that you sent. None of us have been able to go through it yet.
no, all you received, all I sent you was one attachment. This is all the rest of the attachments. It wouldn't go through the email. I couldn't do it by email.
I do
Okay.
actually recall seeing deeds in the paperwork.
Right, I saw that, and
Yeah,
I
so-
couldn't understand the deed transfer.
So it's
That is exactly what took place. Okay, so it was a sale, and it was a sale to,
so it just makes it clear that it's not our responsibility.
yeah, it's not your responsibility. And like I said, I mean, if you go to a place like Concord, you go, they own it. They own the property. They are the ones that maintain the ownership of it. But we've never had that kind of money.
Right.
You know?
So did we receive money when we entered into the contract? No.
No.
But hopefully before our June 20th meeting, our next meeting, we're going to all have an opportunity to review
I'm going to leave
the
this with you. You can pass it
documents.
on.
Thank you for bringing that.
Yeah.
And so that we can, if nothing else, so that we can have a clearer understanding of what
Well,
happened.
the good news, though, is, because I choose to look at going forward,
Yeah.
okay? The good news, I think, is it's a new beginning, and you're all going to learn together how to go forward. Who are we? What do we need to do? And because you'll all be learning it, together, it's going to enrich your group. I honestly believe that.
But are we going to be supported by the town for some sort of help?
I certainly
regarding this?
hope so. I will bring that back to my board. It's posted. That position that Karen held is posted.
To that point.
It's not on your agenda,
Yeah, it is.
is it?
Well, we're talking about staff.
Staff assistants.
Staff assistants.
All
It is
right,
on the agenda.
So you want to flip down to that one then?
Well, it's in the same thing.
Okay,
It's in the
all
same
right.
agenda item.
The only thing I can say is it's posted,
To that.
but I don't know specifically, I personally
Okay.
don't know specifically what that job,
Here's what I'd like to ask.
yeah.
Okay? Because to that point of our part on the agenda for staff assistance, that the job description for the land use coordinator remove the current posting and rewrite the job description to include what was actually done by the staff over the past 14 years. The job description, as you have it, is outdated. It was never one that was followed.
Did you read it?
No.
Have you read the job description?
No, but I
Okay.
was told by the town that we're not in it. But
Well-
we were in it, and so wasn't Town Properties.
Karen was doing the job. There's no doubt about that, but
It
Karen...
wasn't just Karen, it was Jeannie Hollows before that. It was.
Lori, I haven't seen the job description either,
Okay.
okay? I have not seen it.
I'll get the job description if that helps, and we'll take a look at it. And
I think, at this point, it's going to be at my board. You know, it'll start with the town administrator, and it'll be with my board. We've got to look at that job description. He's got to look at it. And someone needs to determine, is there something missing? The other thing that I'm really cautious about is if that person has to support a whole group of boards or committees, is one person going to be able to do that?
Right.
Yeah.
Can I just make a comment in reference to that? There's not been an LUC since last March. There's been no salary paid for that position
I'm not-
since last March. There is money in our budget that should have been to help.
In whose budget?
There is a salary line item for LUC in
oh,
last year's
but
budget
not-
and this year's budget.
You're not talking about like the housing authority budget?
No,
You're saying
we
the
don't have
town,
budget.
land use?
Town in general.
Yeah,
Land
the
use,
town in
okay.
general.
Okay.
And it's not fair to think that you're going to get ink, equipment, and time to make copies and prep for a meeting where the board is supposed to be just acting. You know, that is a staff position.
It brings up another thing, okay? It's budgeted under land use. It's not budgeted under housing authority. It sounds like housing authority going forward needs to think about submitting a budget, okay? You need to think about submitting a budget. You should be thinking about that for your training, for the things that you need.
You know, we've been asking for help since last summer. No one, and that was before this budget was approved for this next year, and no one during that time in the leadership of this town said to us, you should put in a Townsend Housing Authority line item. No one bothered to say that
But
to us.
if we go ahead and do that, so it's about moving forward. So if we go ahead and we work on something like that, is this something that can be shared with, because obviously the housing authority doesn't have a need for a whole bunch of hours. It's a person.
Expectations, and it also comes down to assumptions. I think that some people may have assumed that if a board needed funds or needed supplies or needed training, that they would come forward. It's not expected that we would have to reach out to another elected board and say, hey,
that would have been brought to our attention, let's say, you know? So it wasn't until it was so hard.
So I think what needs to happen going forward is you guys need to take responsibility for your board,
Finding out what we need.
okay?
Okay.
So we need
I hate
an
to say
internal
it,
needs
but
assessment.
that's the way it needs to be. You need to go forward, you need to say, all right, here are the things that we need.
Okay.
Don't wait for somebody else to tell you what you
Right.
need, all right? And if you need assistance in doing that, or you're confused about how to do that, I certainly would try to help or try to direct you, okay? But the Board of Selectmen has tried, because it gets very uncomfortable sometimes. We're all elected officials, okay? And for one group of elected officials to try to tell the other group what they should do or how they should do it is really not proper. We were all elected by the same people.
Right. And we're an elected board as well.
And that's
And
why...
so we should be
But we
bringing
are
forward
reaching
what we
out
need.
and asking.
And
So,
that's
you know,
fine, and I think this is great. I think that, we're starting the dialogue that needs to be started. So, let's forget about what was and start building what we need it to be, is what I'm hoping
Thank you,
for,
Sue, for
okay?
coming. We
I have
really
one other
appreciate it.
little thing that it's not on your agenda, it's just for you guys to share. It's an article that was in my Mass Municipal, they have a little magazine kind of thing that they send out every month, and there's some really good articles in it, and I thought that one might be interesting to you.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
I personally would like to thank you very much, and I agree that we have been asking for, if you can't make the meetings, that's okay, but as long as we know that we can reach out to you at any given point, I would truly appreciate that.
Yeah.
What we talked about the other night, just last night at our meeting, was a policy, an attachment to the policy having to do with liaison, and that is to define the role of a liaison. And one of them is what I said, I don't speak for the board, okay? I've not been authorized to do that. And the other thing is, if we could at least get, because there's no way one person can be on my board and go to all of the committee meetings that I'm liaison with. It would help if once a month you could send me your minutes, to your meetings, any reports that you do.
I thought I sent you more than you wanted.
You do. I understand.
Totally transparent.
No, I understand. So is this all right? and I understand, and that's fine, and I'm there for you. But okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Do you need me to hang around?
You might want to hang
Yes,
around for the next one,
please.
yes, because it's a new situation for our board.
Okay.
Diane Glidden, you are next on our board. And
Do you want me to sit over there, or what would you like?
if you would like to, because
It's
Chaz
hard-
is going to help
hard
you
to
out
hear.
now, because the form that I sent you was wrong.
Okay.
So we now have the correct form
Oh, all
for
right.
the accessory apartment, and Chaz is going to give you the correct form.
Okay, so what we are talking about is that you had gone to a zoning board of appeals in regards to your accessory apartment.
Yes, I have the minutes from the last meeting.
Yep, I do too, and
Okay.
I did take a look at them. So, has there been a formal written from the zoning board?
It's not done
She
yet.
hasn't gotten it done yet.
Okay.
Um,
I can give you in the interim, this is what we can do, but a lot of what this addresses is exactly how the zoning board is going to write whatever their decision is on that, because that's what we have to submit along with your application.
I thought that the notes just had to be gone over to make sure nothing was missing. So
Chaz
there's
is
some-
going to give you the process.
Yeah.
He found the correct form.
Yeah. What we're trying to do, and this is again a situation where this housing authority has never really acted upon. All right, so this is, as far as I know, because I've been on the board for 3.5 years, and this is the first time we've actually gone through this
Correct.
process. Okay, so you have to bear with us, I'll bear with you. Okay. Basically, what we're doing here is that your particular unit needs to be put on our subsidized housing inventory. That's what we're trying to do.
Now, may I ask?
Absolutely.
It's not subsidized.
But this is what it's called. This is what it's called under the comprehensive permit projects under the DHCD of Massachusetts. All right, it's all
right.
all part of it. But for us to put this on our affordable housing inventory, we have to follow their process.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, just to clarify, in the bylaw, it says moderate income on the renewal, moderate income. So is that moderate income going to align with the subsidized?
Yes.
Because nobody's subsidizing it.
Correct.
It's just going to be at a lower rate.
Correct.
Okay, so that's where that tie-in is.
Correct. So, just the general law for the Chapter 40B, they talk about larger projects, like big buildings, like Atwood Acres
Yeah.
or something like that, but we're just talking about an accessory apartment. So this falls under what's called a local initiative program, all right? And in that, it deals specifically with accessory apartments is what you're trying to do.
Right.
Zoning has already agreed, we've already talked, we've given our input to zoning, and then they referred you back to us. What we need to do with you is just make sure that you have this application filled out properly. And then we submit it to the DHCD to get it onto the inventory.
I see.
All right. So there's a couple of questions I wanted to ask you that for the guidelines, in order for us to make this moderate income, you do understand that it has to be at least 15 years.
Oh,
Right.
15 years.
Mm-hmm. So it
That
has
she's
to,
going to continue.
yes, you're going to continue. You have to agree
Yeah.
that your property is going to be for moderate income for 15 years.
What if I move? I mean, as long as I'm there, you mean?
Right, as long as
Okay.
if you move, you move. You're no longer
Yeah,
at that
right.
property.
Okay.
But the understanding is you can't make it moderate now and then in 2 years change it back to
Oh, I see.
to regular.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
not her intent.
Right.
No,
No, but this is what we have to make sure the application says.
Yes.
It's not your intent.
That makes sense,
Okay,
actually.
all right. The second thing is that you have to have a guideline for renting the accessory apartment, which means that you need to follow the rules and regulations established for housing within the state. Okay, so fair housing practices, you need to, are you working with a realtor, I understand?
Yes, I did write up a plan.
Yep,
Plan.
and that's also part of what your application process is going to be.
Okay.
Is that you're working with a realtor, okay? And what we'll do is, I can work with you on, as far as just making sure that this is complete.
Okay.
All right, but I wanted to explain what the process was. Once we go through with the application needs to go through, it has to be signed off by the Housing Authority chair. We have to then give it to the Board of Selectmen. They have to sign on it. I think the town administrator also has to sign off on it. It says town council. And then a local project administrator, which is something that we have to work out the finer details. With my understanding, according to what the guidelines are, is that there's somebody that has to be on the Housing Authority that oversees anything that goes onto our subsidized inventory. Meaning, each year we have to make sure that she is remaining in compliant, either the board or somebody from the town. It can be, it could be like if we had the land use coordinator or whoever, it could be that person as well. So, along with us doing that, we, as a board, would need to vote to see who we were going to have to be able to oversee.
What sort of inspections?
It's not an inspection, it's just to make sure that she's still renting the apartment, everything
Oh,
is the
okay.
way it is, that she's following proper housing guidelines, that sort of thing,
Does she have to have a lease that gets submitted, and would that be once a year?
Yep,
That
yep.
would be the follow-up?
Yep, the follow-up would be you just come in and say everything has been the same and...
A lease every year.
Yep,
Just to show that you're doing what you said you were doing.
right.
Yeah.
And then once we gather all this information and the signatures, we submit it basically for approval, okay?
Okay.
And then once we have the approval, it goes on to our inventory as affordable housing.
And we thank you for that.
Yeah.
We thank you for wanting to do that, because if more people did this,
Yes.
that would increase our affordable housing count.
Yes, I know that's important.
So that's awesome that you want to do this, we appreciate it.
So, what I can do is I can definitely sit down with you at some point and we can go over what needs to be done. We need to wait for the zoning board to finish what their documentation is, because that has to be submitted with this as well.
She said she'd have it done today, actually, because it's 2 weeks from the meeting.
Okay, all right, and then at that point, what we could do is then work out where we go from here. And it's really just me helping you put this paperwork together, and we'll submit it to this, I'll submit it to the state for you.
All right, is it complicated?
No, it's really
No.
not. You have to come up with something like here.
You just have to make sure that her plan is acceptable to this guideline.
Yep, it is. It is. I looked.
Okay.
That's why I'm waiting for the formal documentation to make
Yeah.
sure it falls in line with what they're asking for. All right. If it's not, then we're going to have to make adjustments
Yeah.
accordingly. Does that make sense?
And it should probably be done by our 20th, right?
Yep.
The meeting on the 20th, so it might be able to be wrapped up then.
Yep.
Can it be sent to the Board of Selectmen before us? Where the Board of Selectmen have to sign it?
It's just for signatures. Yeah. We need to have an affirmative fair marketing plan. We need a sample advertisement or flyer if they're going to advertise your apartment.
Most of it's
And an
social
application, an application form that if you're going to have somebody that's going to rent that out, you're going to have them fill out an application.
Yes.
We need a copy of that
Where
application.
is it here? I wrote it in here. It's the renters, prospective renters Did I write it in? Yeah, prospective tenant information form.
Right.
Application
I just need a
rental
copy of
application.
that.
Yeah, sure.
Is that what you had?
So,
Yep. So we need that, and this is just to prove that you are following fair housing practices for the
Okay.
state. That's all it really is.
so it's going to be listed on MLS, or
Yes, that's
MLS.
right.
Yeah, is that sufficient, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, your agent, yeah, that's
Newspaper.
probably the widest area.
Yeah.
And also in that system, your agent can put it on social media, so it can go on Facebook.
Oh.
It can go on the
Oh, okay.
Townsend part of
Yeah.
the Facebook, Townsend, Pepperell Ashby for marketing. Yeah,
Yep.
sure.
Oh, she can do that.
So
okay.
all of those things have far more coverage than
Yeah.
the paper, so.
The state wants to make sure that you understand that you're advertising to, because what they don't want is you to have somebody in mind to it and not advertise and then,
Yeah.
You
you
need
know
to
what I mean?
advertise it.
Right.
Right.
The last part of it is you need two separate information packets, one for the owner of the accessory apartment explaining your responsibilities as owner, and I'll go over all that criteria, basically who's in charge of the heat, who's in charge of the electric, who's in charge, do they have
Yes.
water with the unit, they're gonna want all of that
Yeah, I provide all
information.
that.
Yeah, and then one for prospective tenants explaining the annual recertification process, meaning what we need to do to make sure that you're staying in compliance with
Yes.
what they are. Does that
All right.
all make sense?
Yes.
It's kind of simple, really, isn't it?
It really,
I mean,
it's simple, but
It
it
is.
has to be specific to what
I
they're
know,
asking
for the state, yes,
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yep. And then any documentation of town action we have to submit, which is the zoning board,
Yep.
okay? So how do we want to move forward with this? I can give you this information, that's the application.
She would submit that.
Yeah, that would have to be a part of it.
Okay.
And did you want to set a time aside that you and I can talk and
Yes,
just to make sure we have it all?
Well, I am going away Saturday
Okay.
for over a week.
Okay,
Timing isn't great.
okay.
I mean, but I will be around the next 2 days.
Okay.
Unless that's too soon for you.
Why don't
No.
you just contact each other and
Yeah,
set that up? and-
I'll give you my contact information and then
Okay.
we can go. I'm free tomorrow.
Oh, all right. Okay, and,
You should be all set.
okay, I guess I don't have any, my questions have been answered.
And if you have any others,
As far
Jess
as
can
the-
help you out. But
Yeah,
you should be all set. Yes, Sue.
yep.
You know. I hear a motion.
I move we appoint Chad.
Second.
Okay.
That Chad.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any
Chad
opposed?
in
Like
favor?
sign? No? Chad?
Guess I am.
Chad is the representative now to work with Diane Glidden and on this one. And then
Thank you, Sue.
we need to figure out exactly who is going to do the yearly thing. I don't think it's going to be a name, but probably a position.
Yep.
Because the names can change at any time, as we know. So, okay?
Yes, I think whatever questions I have, I can ask you, I guess.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So it's
All right.
official, right, that we can do that. So I'll give you my information.
I will tell you that I did visit the property, and it's lovely. It's very nice, very
Yes,
well
I-
maintained, and it's a great spot. I'm sure she won't have any trouble.
One of my
Let me write my number.
One of my main
And anybody else out there who's interested in having an accessory apartment in their property, please contact us. We'd like to add to the count. Thank you.
One of my main questions is if my rent that I'm planning to charge is going to be acceptable.
I
It-
think he'll fill.
Yeah, I can fill you in
Okay,
on
we'll
that. It
deal
has
with
to be a
that.
percentage of, there's a need, we'll talk about that.
There's a formula.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Is it? Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is Soldier On. And you're here. Good evening. Would you please come up? And I haven't met you yet, so if you could come up and introduce yourselves. For those of you that may not know, we've been working diligently for about 6 or so months. Well, actually, it's a couple of years, and with State Representative Sheila Harrington in reference to trying to get veterans housing to come to Townsend, which includes many steps, one of them being the feasibility study, and if this will meet our needs in Townsend. It's a long process, and one of the things we need to do as the Housing Authority is find a partner to partner with in the construction of the next project. Currently, we've been talking about this project to be on the Dudley Road property that we still own. I'll be careful how I refer to it, I guess. A parcel of land that we do own. And, you know, if need be, if that's not the right property, which we will know by doing a feasibility study, we have other town properties in town that could be recommended for it. But the biggest asset for us as a housing authority is that we do own land that can be developed. In fact, that's our only asset in this contribution, and that outside of the people that are passionate about having it done, because it does take a lot of community effort to finally get through the process. The last one taking us 7 years. And basically why it took maybe 2 or 3 years longer than it should have was the fact that we were denied the HUD housing grant money for 2 years in a row. Didn't get it until the third time. So hopefully this time we'll be able to find funding much quicker for veterans housing. So with that, do they not have a microphone yet? Yeah, is that one of the, yeah?
Okay, I'll try that. I'll see if this works.
And I want you to know that your organization was recommended to us by a couple of community members from here in Townsend, you know, to come out, and you had glowing reports from those people.
Great.
So thank you for coming tonight, and I'll give you the floor.
First of all, we're glad to finally get here. We were in Albany, New York today for a conference in Albany. Left there around 3:30, 4:45 this afternoon, and hope to God that any trooper that stopped us would be merciful and kind, because we're really blowing across. But so we had a good trip. Veterans housing used to be a very complicated process. Veterans are not a protected class under the Fair Housing Act in the United States of America. So when you talk about veterans housing, generally speaking, you're talking about veterans preference, meaning if there's a veterans eligible and a civilian eligible, the veteran would get preference. But if there's not a veteran eligible, it goes to a civilian, a non-veteran individual. So when we went to do this, and we run we shelter, Soldier On Shelters, we're the largest shelter provider for the VA east of the Mississippi. We shelter 250 veterans every night in Western Massachusetts, in Northampton, in Pittsfield, Mass. Okay, and we do a great job of it. As a result of sheltering the veterans, we realized keeping people in shelters keeps them in a permanent state of homelessness. And when I opened the second shelter in 2004 in Pittsfield, Mike Mullen, who became the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, at that time was an admiral working in the Pentagon, and he had spoke to me about homelessness. So I called him saying, hey, look, I came down and did you a favor. Would you come up and dedicate this shelter for me in Pittsfield? He said to me, Jack, I can't come, but I'll send a member of my staff. He sent up a young Army major by the name of Ed Kennedy, who got up and did a talk about his service and stuff. But at the end, he said, I'm Ed Kennedy, I'm a United States Major, I'm 30 years old, I'm a graduate of the University of Virginia, I have 3 kids, I'm a left-handed golfer, I love to play softball, and I'm going back to Afghanistan. And he paused, and then he looked at all of us and he said, I'll die for every one of you. When he said that, what clearly went off in my head was, my God, last night I had 200 men and women in my care who were veterans, and I had never heard, I will die for you. I went home that night and I said to my wife, you know, I consider myself a pretty progressive, open person. And I said, I'm shocked that the men and women, 23 million men and women in America were veterans at that time. And I said, all of them, when they put on the American military uniform, said, I will die for you. And I've never heard that chorus. We've raised 9 children, put 6 of them through college, had a very good life, had very good jobs, all because these people said they would die for me. And I said to her, think about this. I'm running a shelter thinking it's okay for these men and women who said they would die for me to go home tonight and sleep in a shelter, wear used clothing, and not have any permanent place to call home. So I decided I would build permanent housing. I thought every veteran should own where they live. I really believe that. I've testified in front of Congress twice on that issue. And so we set off to do that, and in 2010, we built our first village in Pittsfield, Mass, called Gordon Mansfield Veterans Community. 39 units of beautiful, affordable housing that not only would you want your veteran friend to live in, you'd live in. We built the best because we think the men and women who served our country are the best. We have no excuses, so we did that. And then we found out it's very hard to do this because, again, we have to get in line with every other group that wants to build housing that's eligible and fight for the money. So we decided that we would do that, and so we now have a village in Pittsfield, Mass, one in Northampton, Mass, one in Chicopee, one in Agawam. We're starting one in Albany, New York, and another one in Tinton Falls, New Jersey. We only go where we're invited. We don't look to do this. If a community thinks we can help, we would help. So our commitment to Townsend is very simple. We don't ever have to build housing here. We have a lot of knowledge on how to do it. Jay Ash is the guy we work with all the time. He'll tell you, we drive him crazy about, Jay, we got to get more money. We got to do more villages. So we're there all the time. You can have any information we have. You can have copies of our prints. You can have how we do it. You can look at our grants. We'll give you everything. Nothing we've done do we own. It belongs to the men and women we serve. Therefore, the veterans in this community have as much ownership of our work product as we do every day. So we would want you to have that. So we don't want you to feel obligated or whatnot. Our salaries are paid by grants from the VA and from the various states we work in, okay? There's nothing else about it. You know what I'm saying? It's that simple. To do housing in a town of 9,500 roughly, I think, here in Townsend, we would need to survey and find out roughly how many people are veterans here. But off the top of my head, I would guess there's probably 400 veterans living in Townsend. How many of them are eligible for supported housing, as it's defined in Massachusetts with all the income categories, may drop that number down significantly. But we can also build housing for veterans. The reason we become important, we developed this model called limited equity cooperative apartments, which is like condominiums. Instead of owning your unit from the walls in, which is what happens in a condo, in a limited equity cooperative, you own a share in the development. So in Pittsfield, in the first one we built, there were 39 units. There's 39 shares. You buy a share, and because you own a share, you can rent a unit. That's how we keep it for veterans and for only veterans. Soldier On is the manager of the shares. You have to be a veteran to be with Soldier On. So nobody can ever, because you can't screen out the public any other way. Okay, so you have to have a gateway into the housing. So we became the gateway. So it works. The other part of our housing, because many of the men and women we serve have developed mental health issues, some have had addiction issues, many of them suffer stressful lifestyles. We deliver services to everybody in housing that we serve 7 days a week. We do the transportation, we get you to your medical appointments. We do all that because we know people lead stable, safe lives when they're getting services. Without services, housing can become very difficult for people that have a lot of issues. So we run, and you're welcome to come to Pittsfield or Agawam or Chicopee or Northampton. You can go up there any day. You don't even have to announce yourself. Just say, hey, when do you guys take me and show me around? They'll show you their units. It's beautiful. It's fabulous lifestyle. Okay? And many of the men and women with us have gone from homelessness, not only to ownership of their unit, but because now they live in a community with services. Many of them have bank accounts with money, okay? They've never had this. You know, they're buying cars. About 40% of the people in our housing work, all right? A lot of them have disability pensions from the VA and things like that, Social Security disability. So the key is looking at the veterans in the community, identifying about how many might be served, and then we could help you plan what it would take to do it. Generally speaking, we would not be involved in the development with less than 25 units, because with 25 units, the VA and HUD do a special subsidy called VASH, which is a Section 8 specifically designed for veterans, okay? And a congressman from Massachusetts who never voted for a defense bill in his 26 years in Congress, John Oliver, voted and funded HUD VASH back in 2008, and that's how that came into existence. And John was the congressman for Western Mass where we were, and he said to me, I hate voting for anything that's going to help the war machine, but you're telling me this is going to help the men and women that served who aren't fighting anymore. I said, that's right, John. So he funded the first one, and we got this ball rolling. So what that does, with every 25 of those units that get created, the VA has to hire a case manager to work with those housing units. And we're a vendor for those.
I don't know that we gave you an awful lot of information about where we've been so far, but our goal is to have 50 in the next in the next project that we do. So,
okay.
I mean, if it was possible for us to get more, I think we would be happy because it would go towards our affordable housing count.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they all go. All our units count against 40B.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for.
So we're available. There's not really a lot of financial output for the town in the development. There are some costs associated with it. You're going to have legal things you have to pay, and I get all that. But generally speaking, the funding covers the hookup for water, sewer, the movement of utilities onto the property. Those kinds of things are part of the pre-structure that we work with the state on. The reality is getting yourself organized enough so that there's a tremendous paperwork flow with a project like this. Tremendous. You know, so
But this is what I tried to explain.
these are the issues that we face. The other part of having affordable housing with a limited equity model is it pays taxes to your community. There's no other affordable housing model that does this. So you get beautiful housing for your veterans. They're paying taxes because they own the building that houses the units. And the town generally does pretty well with that because the majority of men and women we serve no longer have children attached. Do you know what I'm saying? So schools and things like that don't generally increase because we built it a town. Okay?
So you were I think I heard you speaking before that you had a site. Were you talking about a site or a existing building?
We do, and there's probably about 7 acres left.
It's not a building.
It's not a building.
land.
It's
Site,
land.
okay.
It's land. Where we have 2 other affordable buildings that were built. One of them is close to 30 years old, and that was 50 units of affordable housing, which meant it wasn't just senior housing. It could be senior, but it was just affordable. So if there was disabilities, then they were seniors, they kind of got the preference there. But that was not just senior. Then the second building is 36 units. I think we wanted more, but we could only get the 36, and that was the last HUD 202 that was built in the state, actually. And that was done in 2010. And that was a aging in place type of unit. In the first building, we had, there were some studio units. Those were mostly the handicap units that they had prepped that way. And by the time we got to the second building, it was all about aging in place so that the people wouldn't have to move and they could be handicap accessible if that should happen, you know, during their stay. So now we're looking for as much as we could get, you know, for the town. There's been a lot of discussion of should we interface some, it would all be affordable, it would all be veterans, but should we interface just the single veterans, or do we interface some of the family situation? Because obviously they lose a mother, they lose a father, there's still a spouse left behind with children. So this was all just in discussion, nothing that has been, you know.
What happens, just so you know, because we make it veteran specific, when the veteran dies or leaves, everybody else goes.
Yeah. So the spouse...
The spouse cannot stay because the spouse isn't a veteran. Okay? What happens is you can't have your cake and eat it. I mean, that's what the government set up.
But we didn't
Well,
get that
no,
into the discussion.
I want you to tell you, I think it's very unfair, okay?
But it is.
You know, but everybody tells you, veterans are my heroes, we love our veterans. Well, you don't love them enough to just say, we'll give you everything. So this is another one of those kind of secret caveats that nobody wants to talk about. And then when something happens, you're moving out everyone else. So generally, most of our units are individuals, single people, okay? We tend to take a lot in the towns. We tend to be getting seniors that have aged out and no longer want to live in their own home and they want to move in, so we do that, okay? Because a lot of senior men who either don't have spouses or their spouses have died would rather live with fellow veterans. So it becomes an easy fit to bring those communities together and make their needs work, you know? And where we're transporting everyone to their VA appointments, the medical appointments, we'll take them to Walmart. For people who are aging out and transportation is an issue, our model works extremely well.
So just how involved do you get with the building? You know, do you have building plans for us to work with? Do you come in and help us with that, or do you just say, okay, when the building is built, then we'll come in and... We
would end up being if we were going to do it, if you said we want you to do it, we come and do the whole show.
Right, they're the partner.
We'll come in, we'll work with your local people and do it, you know, just like the regular developer. We're a private not-for-profit, so, you know, we deal with that. And then we just work it through. I mean, because you're dealing with state and federal money, everything has to go out to bid. Depending on the dollar volume, depends on the wages that have to get paid on the site, all of those things. We go by all that.
Right.
You know, and we want beautiful housing. So we work very hard at that. We have a preferred architect who's now worked with us on 5 projects who really gets all the nuances. We build everything transgenerational, so you never have to leave your place.
So it's
we build every unit so it can become totally handicapped accessible.
Good, okay.
Every bathroom has all the turnaround room for wheelchairs. Okay, I mean, those are the things we know we have to do because our veterans don't want to go to nursing home. Let me tell you how true this is.
I agree.
Our veterans won't go to the state cemetery when they die. It's only, well, in Agawam, the state cemetery is 2 miles from our facility. We build columbariums at every one of our facilities and with an eternal flame outside, and we inter the ashes of all the veterans that died there. Why do we do that? Because the veterans are saying, I want to stay here where my friends that I've lived with can come and visit me. So the most popular area to smoke Marlboros in any of our facilities is outside the... You pull up to one of our facilities in the morning and there'll be 4 or 5 guys quietly sitting there thinking of their friends and token up to start the day, as much as we don't like it, that's the reality, So we think that once you do this, we build villages in our vision that we think really contribute to the quality of life and the security for the individuals live there. Period, amen. That's what we want.
Yes, sir. Sure.
Ownership is the cooperative. Okay, the maintenance, depending on how it's funded, is always soldier on. But it may be like if we were renovating a building where you use tax credits, then you have a syndicator who comes in and they sell the tax credits. We have to be part of the syndication in order to manage it. You know what I'm saying? So we do all that. We do it all. You got to remember, veterans are committed to duty. So here's the beauty of this model. We'll say to the residents of the place, hey, we got to go out, we got to get the lawns mowed. Do you want to do the flower boxes out in front of your unit? Or do you want us to pay somebody $20 an hour to do that? How would you like to do this? Why is that? Because when you share in a limited equity cooperative, surplus income each year is divided by the number of owners and you get a check. Okay? So all our people are used to getting their check of like $250. They would rather get the $250 than pay people to do the little things. The second thing is because you share in that ownership. When I see Bruce has left his lights on in his apartment, I'm saying, hey Bruce, go back, shut off your lights, man. I'm paying 1/50th your bill, damn it all. Shut them off. Okay, so we have very low cost. Our cost of operating our affordable housing is 40% of the national average. I just had all the folks, Jay Ash, all of them out in Pittsfield. We're building a village for women veterans. It's the first one ever done. And we're doing it on grounds where we built this other village for men. And so all the funders were there from DCHD and all of them. They walked into the old building. They said to me, my God, this place doesn't look like it's a year old. It's been operating 8 years. But the people that live there own it. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't look like public housing. It's beautiful private housing.
Yeah.
At the beginning, you talked about the number of beds. Is that part of the criteria that you have to go through to be eligible?
No, it's the practical consideration of how are we going to pull vets from, say, within a 20-mile area of here to keep it occupied all the time. You're going to want to first of all give priority to your community, okay? But then the reality of things, as people die or move on or change, then you want to keep it fully occupied. So we tend to look at try to look at a 20-mile circumference around the community. Of eligibles, okay? And that's pretty easy in Massachusetts because Veteran Services in Boston, we can tap in there and get pretty exact information on the county and the area, okay?
Is there a special first come, first served for Townsend residents?
Is there what?
A special
Yeah,
first
he
come,
said that
first
we would
served
get
for
preference.
Townsend residents?
Yeah, well, there's a waiting list that has to get done, right? So I would suggest that if the waiting list was emanating from the town of Townsend, it's probably going to be more available to Townsend people first and then others, okay? Secondarily, usually we work with the veteran service officer in the community that we're in. They would have a lot of input to who's coming in based on what they've seen for need over the years, because they're the people that are writing checks to help guys and gals stay stable in the community. So, we don't want to come in and do anything that anybody does better. If your veteran service officer really knows the community and we want to work with him. We don't want to do more work, do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
We'll work with local agencies. If we think we have veterans that need mental health appointments, we'll see that the local community agencies are providing it, okay? And we'll also talk to them about coming on site with us to visit them here. we visit all our veterans every day in their housing, and we do most of their appointments that way, because we can do in 5 minutes sitting in your living room that normally we have to book a half-hour appointment. So it's much easier to just walk in and say, hey, what's going on? What are you going doing? In this building, if we did one here, all our buildings now come with 32-inch TVs in them, every unit, with a computer. And you click your clicker, and you're saying, hey, Billy, this is Jack, your case manager. How you doing today? And we're face-to-face. We pipe in all our treatment meetings, everything like that. You can get all the broadcasts in your unit. Our psychologists, our psychiatrists, our case managers, the peers who are going to pick you up, that all comes in on your TV. So you click on the clicker and they'll say, now remember, we're picking up at 10 o'clock, and then you get a phone call at 9:45. Hey, Billy, we're on the way to grab you, make sure you're ready, have your coat and hat on. Because as people age out, they don't always keep the calendar organized in their head, huh? So we've developed these, and we find it works well with everyone. So we just do it.
Do you also, as far as services are concerned, do you have, is there somebody that'll do blood and
We do no medical services at all.
Okay.
We bring in the VA people to do that.
Yep.
Depending on what schools are around here, like on our campus in Northampton, we built a village on the campus to VA Hospital in Northampton. We have 11 acres that we lease from the VA. On that campus, I have nurses from Elms College and UMass that come in and do the blood pressures, do the sugar test, all that for the vets that can't do it themselves. Mm-hmm. They'll do it all there. Only because the VA doesn't like to have their personnel tied up like that.
Right.
So, we'll work with them. Okay? Many of the men and women in our care are VA eligible for health care.
Yep.
But we dual register all of them in Mass Health. Okay? Because they should have the same option as every civilian. Do I want to go to the VA or do I want to go to the local hospital? So we do all that.
Right, and one of our primary issues here is the transportation issue, especially for health-related issues.
Yeah, we do all the transportation. I would suggest to you, if this got built, probably services for all your veterans will get better in the area, just because we're driving them to their appointments. So what'll happen is we'll eventually, after we see what we're doing for the men and women we serve in the housing, then we'll open it up and say to your veteran service officer, just call in and we'll book them through our electronic system. So when I'm taking Bruce to his appointment at the VA hospital, I can pick up 2 guys in the community, bring them, and then bring them back. We do that now in the other areas of Massachusetts.
Okay.
Can I ask that to a question that I had before you spoke about your architect that you use now and the aging place? So, it sounds like who we might have used before. Do you mind saying who your architect is?
Yeah, it's
Pete Gillies, who's out of Albany, New York.
Oh.
So probably, he helped us with a couple projects ago, and it just worked. That he got what we did, how we did it, and was able to really capture the program, and now it's more easy to replicate it when you have the same firm doing
Right.
the other projects, because a lot of similarities
Right.
in
and unlike
Design.
other architects, he not only designs it all, he will supervise the construction.
On site.
We will not have a clerk of the works. He and his team are the clerk of the works. So we don't have these arguments with plumbers and engineers arguing, no, that can't be here. He's the guy, straighten it out, let's get it done. So it just makes it a smoother process for us all,
Okay, we have gone past the 8 o'clock, and I did have an 8 o'clock appointment with John Hume, but he's not here.
Okay.
So I will be at MRPC tomorrow night, and I will ask the question about the feasibility study and what other help we can get from them, because he was supposed to get back to us on funding for our feasibility study.
And just so you're aware too, we, in Massachusetts especially, use a development consultant that has helped us with all of our projects, they have a real working relationship with DHCD, and that would be part of our part of the approach is they help us put together the project, the funding, the financing, and know us as an agency well, which certainly helps, and they know the system. It's what they've done for many, many years.
And that's post-feasibility, right?
Is it post or does it include the feasibility study?
For us, they would oversee the feasibility, but that, I just wanted you to add that as part of the team that we would work with. So it would be a resource to assist with. They wouldn't
Okay, but we're
perform
looking for
that.
the money
Right, and
to do the feasibility study.
PCHD has money
PCHD.
available. I can't think of the grant line that we get the money out of, but we can get soft costs from it.
see that?
CDAC.
CDAC, right.
CDAC.
Okay, so
Jump on CDAC.
We have a question that we've presented to the selectmen via the TA in reference to the CDAC seed money that we were given after the opening of Townsend Woods, which was $10,000. I have not been able to find out where the $10,000 is. If you look at or listen to the November 30th meeting, 2017, Lionel Romaine.
Lionel, yeah.
Yes, gave a presentation at that meeting, because we've always worked with CDAC before,
Sure.
the town, and he did say that, at the completion of the project, there was $10,000 given to you as seed money for your next project. So my ears perked up for
Yeah.
that because we have no money, and we've been looking for the $10,000 because that would go a long way in the feasibility study.
Sure.
So hopefully that will be addressed. My understanding is somebody's looking for it.
How much is a feasibility study? Just
I'm thinking 10 to 15,000.
For this project,
Right.
I have a quote that I had gotten in 2016, was $35,000 for our feasibility.
35,000?
That's a lot of big sass.
It's a car.
2007, the last project was finished.
No, the last project opened in 2010. It was, they started all the documentation for it and the partnership and all that in 2008, but the completion was 2010, and that's when the $10,000 should have, well, he was looking at a piece of paper that said, we got $10,000, but I haven't found it. So, any other questions from the audience? Because I know we have veterans in the audience.
Thank you.
I don't know if we can hear you, Russ. You're good. You want, oh, there isn't one there now. Oh, God. Do you want to come up? Do you want to come up to have a seat? No? Come on.
I know that there's my main concern is the service part, and I was very happy to hear that that was part of what you're looking for. Being out here, we have to look at the whole picture. If we just build a facility, there needs to be some, we were looking at transportation and all of that, and it sounds like you have a total package for that.
Yeah, first of all our employees, we don't have any offices.
Yeah.
So an employee's office is the RAV4 that we provide them with. So we have 200 RAV4s around the country. So we do a lot of RAV4ing. So everybody that works for us has a car, company car. Secondarily, every 25 units, that's why we do 25 units, they get a driver and a van. So that we have a van and a driver at that facility to make sure 24/7 we can get people in and out. Okay. And then with the staff people that are coming in during the day, there's always 2, 3, 4, 5 staff people in and out. They all come with cars. So transportation and us are really well. And in Western Mass, we did a $2.5 million grant with the Federal Transportation Authority. We have a call center, we coordinate with the VRTA in Berkshire County, and we take all the veterans from the 4 western counties to their appointments in our vehicles all day, every day. So we're good at this. We love doing it. That's our job. Our job is to serve veterans. And that's what we want to do better than anybody else. That's all we want to do.
Also, we've looked at, as far as the not only for Townsend, but the surrounding towns
Yeah.
for us. We're part of Middlesex County, and roughly the need is there. The need is definitely there. Would you then take, once we do a feasibility study, you would then look further to see what it is, the actual need is, before we even...
Yeah, we can evaluate the need with you.
Yeah.
Okay, but primarily, if we're going to focus on 25 units for Townsend, that would be our priority.
Yeah.
Once that's complete and we're done with that, then we would be willing to respond to other towns, but, you know, we want to take care of where we make commitments first. So,
Right, no,
yeah.
I'm saying not only Townsend, but we're looking at, because we are,
Yeah,
you know...
you're going to always have that, as you probably already know from affordable housing.
Yeah.
You know, you don't always have a choice with people with vouchers as to who lands there. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a priority in that system. We've been able to work around that because of the veteran, with the veteran-specific VASH unit, the HUD VASH, the Section 8 for veterans. There's a lot more flexibility.
Yes.
So to give you an example, there's a lot of limitations on who's an eligible veteran for VA services. Okay? But with Soldier On, one day in the American military uniform will serve you.
Okay.
Period, amen. So we're not leaving people on the sidelines, and especially guys and gals that served in the reserves, and they never saw action, you know? But they would have gone had they. But they have no benefits from the VA, and they have very little eligibility in a lot of the other veteran systems. So we've made them eligible for everything. We'll do that through this. Okay?
Okay.
Russ, do you want to come up?
Thank you for having me. My name is Russell Job. I'm a resident here in Townsend. I'm also a member of the VFW and hopefully incoming junior vice commander for the state for the VFW. But I think Chaz and Laura has put out, has asked the questions that we all had concerning that. And of course it comes back to transportation like you'd mentioned earlier. The individual who got me in the VFW had a hard time trying to get from here to Roxbury for treatments. He has since passed, but it was disheartening to see that his son, who had issues of his own, trying to drive down to West Roxbury, that become an all-day fare for both of them.
Yeah.
So it's just something that, you know, we're so far out, but he wouldn't live anywhere else. So that's one of the main things that we would like to see. And you know, the plan that you put out was, you know, that you have displayed there is very nice. And I think that if it goes through, I think that would serve us well here and the surrounding communities, which we do have a lot, and I think we have a good need for it. So.
Because our transportation too extends beyond just the veterans in our facility. So we transport a lot of people every day to Roxbury, to, you know, all
We're
around
already
to
doing
the
it.
VA. Right.
So it's not, you know, it'll fit in, you know, it just works.
Right.
We could send a van down Route 2 instead of taking the turnpike, you know? I mean, there's honestly a lot of different ways to network it or make it work.
I think from the discussions that we were able to have in the past couple of years regarding this, we actually feel that 50 isn't enough. So, but we don't think that the land that we are thinking about will hold more than that, will, you know, accommodate more than that, because we're on septic systems here.
Yeah.
So we have some challenges in that way. So I think that if we get this done, well, our goal is to get this done. Unfortunately, it'll only be a drop in the bucket.
It's
So,
the work
but
you
that's
do,
our goal.
you know? Everybody that serves veterans, it's the frustration. There's not enough dollars to meet the tremendous need. And so we just keep prioritizing the people that we serve and stay focused on that and try to make that work. It's all you can do, you know?
Any other questions, comments?
Or are you thinking of looking at other potential properties?
We weren't, but I just throw it out there because the town owns other properties. I don't know what would be feasible and what wouldn't be. And that would be part of our feasibility study, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, there's.
So want to be open-minded, because certainly don't want to cut off any opportunity that we could have to get this done. But our original goal was the rest of the...
Well, according to the affordable housing plan that we submitted, and it was voted on in 2015, right?
Yep.
In that, we had proposed to increase our affordable housing for the town, right? Right now, we're at 4.7, 4.8, I forget where I put it. In that plan that we had submitted, we were going to be looking more closely into veterans housing at that particular time in that particular plan, because of the funding that was available and is available now. It's more readily available now than it was back in there. We've also been working very closely with Sheila Harrington in regards to Secretary Ash and a lot of other things that we've looked at. So there's been a lot of conversation for the veterans because of the need, number one, but more importantly, the tax revenue is also kind of spiked my interest in this particular project too. So if we can kind of hit all those bases, I think it's going to be a win-win for a lot of individuals.
I think Secretary Ash and Sheila Harrington were at Townsend Woods right after my surgery. I couldn't be there. So that would have been November of 2016. And so they were out, they know about this. She's been very supportive of our getting this done, because we knew when Townsend Woods opened that was the last of the HUD 202 money. And so we started talking about veterans housing then. Because of various situations, you talk about the ups and downs and whatever of the workload, we were unable to meet for a good part of 2 years because of not having a full board. So again, there was no work. We couldn't accomplish much. And so now we're looking forward to a full board and getting right on this and making more progress.
Basically, what's your time frame from the time we are able to get the feasibility study done? So when we get our ducks in a row and we say, okay, we're ready to go, how soon can you guys get started? What's your time
We
frame?
can start right away, and from the moment we start till we get funding is probably 3 years, and then you start building. That's the facts. There's no shortcuts here, unless somebody drifts in with big money and says, we want to help you guys out. No, serious. I mean, that's what you live and dream sometimes, saying, oh God, I wish this would happen. If we ever had $10 million that we could set aside and start a project, and then wait for funding to come in behind, then you can get up and running, but, we're not a very wealthy organization, We work hard at what we do, and we spend all the money we get. It's pretty simple.
Well, hopefully anybody who's watching and has a few extra bucks they'd like to put towards the veterans housing.
Or some land,
or some land, or whatever, please get in touch with us. Thank you so much for making the trip out.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We appreciate your time and
thank you.
your
Thank
visit
you
here.
all. Thank you for your service. Okay?
And we'll be in touch with you
You know how to get a hold of us,
as soon as
right?
we get money.
And then
If our feasibility act together.
Even questions, if you have
questions, okay?
we can
have a
help
pretty
you right through it.
easy website to work with. And then I think you've talked to Casey DeSico, our communication.
Yes, I did.
So anybody that wants materials, if they contact Casey, she'll ship them out to you. You can get everything on everything we do, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Safe travels back. There's a couple up here too. Okay. Okay, you're on next. Okay, so again, I said that I would speak with John Hume tomorrow night at MRPC. Okay,
Thank you for coming, Sue.
sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sue, for coming. Appreciate it. Take it easy. Okay, work session. Open meeting law complaint decision from Attorney General. Votes may be taken. Jazz?
This board received a letter dated May 8th, 2018 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Office of the Attorney General. This is in regards to the open meeting law complaints that we had filed against us of last year. Dear Ms. Schifrin, this office received a complaint from Cindy King on January 14th, 2018, alleging that the Townsend Housing Authority, the board, violated the open meeting law, General Law 30A, 18 through 25. The complaint was originally filed with the board on or before October 27th, 2017, and you responded to the complaint on behalf of the board by letter dated November 16th, 2017. In her complaint, Ms. King alleges that the board discussed revisions to set a draft minutes outside of a meeting and made changes to those minutes, including omitting a document that had been described in the original version of the minutes. Ms. King also alleges that the board removed a topic originally listed on its October 23, 2017 meeting notice from a subsequent notice from the board's October 27, 2017 meeting. Following our review, we find that the board did not violate the open meeting law. In reaching a determination, we reviewed the original complaint, the board's response to the complaint, and the complaint filed with our office requesting further review. We also reviewed the board's original and revised September 18, 2017 meeting minutes, the board's October 23, 2017 meeting notice, and the board's October 27, 2017 meeting notice and minutes. Finally, we communicated by email with Board Chair Laura Schifrin and Board Member Charles Sexton Duranian on February 28th and March 1st, 2018. We find the facts as follows. The Board posted notice of a meeting for October 23rd, 2017, in part to approve minutes of Monday, September 18th, 2017 to discuss report. Do you want me to read all of the facts or just go to the
Go to the summary and
discussion?
I don't think everybody wants to hear it.
No, they don't. Let's go to the conclusion.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to read. For the above reasons, we find that the board did not violate the open meeting law. We now consider the complaint addressed by this determination to be resolved. This determination does not address any other complaints that may be pending with our office or the board. Please feel free to contact our office, and it gives the office number. Sincerely, Hannah Rush, Assistant Attorney General. I make a motion that we accept this letter and this matter as being closed.
Second.
Needs to be a second and a third. Okay.
A second
Any
and a
further
third?
discussion?
I would like to have a further discussion.
Oops. Okay.
My first point of issue with this letter from the Attorney General references a complaint submitted by Cindy King on January 14th of 2018, which this board has never received a copy of nor notified of said complaint on that date. We are in receipt of the following complaints and all the dates that have listed that are in this letter. According to the Attorney General determination, we've had 4 open meeting law complaints filed by this one party within a 5-month period. My question would be this: if we vote to accept this issue as resolved, does this mean we can't bring up the issue of not being on copy of that 4th complaint or any possible future complaints from this party? Or are we in agreement that this is a non-issue and accept it as is? If we accept it in total, is my question. According to this letter, it says that there was an additional complaint that was filed to the Attorney General on January 14th, and we have never been on notice of that.
What are the pros and cons to it? So if we accept it, then we can never revisit it again. Or if that person files another complaint against the board, can we in turn say, can we in turn take it to the Board of Selectmen? I'm assuming that's who we'd take it to and say, listen, this is out of
We
control.
take it to the Attorney
You
General.
take it to the Attorney General's office.
Okay, so those are the pieces I don't understand.
That's why I'm like, I want to bring it that if we do vote it as being closed, because that's what the Attorney General is saying. The Attorney General is saying that if we accept this, that the complaint witnessed in this determination will be resolved, which means it's done.
I can just say this, and I did mention to do the open meeting law training online, and I did find it very interesting. Like I said, I learned something new every day, and one of the items that I did learn was that if the same person continues to make open meeting law complaints, and the fifth one, you file harassment with the Attorney General's office.
Right.
So I think that we can accept the letter. Doesn't mean we approve the letter. We can accept the letter into our files, and if anything else happens that we feel shouldn't be happening, we should go back to the Attorney General.
Okay, because I personally just want the matter closed.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, the motion is to close it.
It should be closed, and we should look towards moving ahead.
Right.
Let's leave the past in the past and
Right.
go forward.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
So, personally, I've been working very diligently for the town of Townsend to increase the affordable housing inventory, and have done so with honesty, respect, and total transparency. It was disheartening when these allegations were put forth to the THA, and I'm glad to be finally vindicated of this. I had made a public apology to the town in good faith, but we have found that we were not in violation of anything, and I just want to be going on record, as I went on record before, to apologize, because I didn't think there was anything wrong, but I did apologize, and I want to make sure that that gets said on record. These issues can now be put to bed with the understanding that we continue to carefully follow the Commonwealth's open meeting law in all of our meetings, that we provide a public forum that includes any and all public comment, and we remain dedicated to our primary mission, which is to increase our affordable housing inventory. It is imperative that we continue to work collaboratively with all town departments and boards and remain bipartisan in every issue. And that is my comment that I wanted to make sure I had on record.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jess.
So we have, I'll just reiterate the vote. There was a first and a second. We had discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Like sign? Hearing none, the motion passes. Okay, next on our agenda is the vacancy on our board, and we are so fortunate to have 4 people who put in a volunteer form. And so we will be addressing each of you, and then what I was told, and if you have a copy of the agenda out there, it says executive session, votes may be taken. That has been stricken during the 1.5 additions, deletions to the agenda. We struck out the executive session. Can't be held in executive session. We need to have a motion made and a vote taken during open session. So again, I learn every day, and I acquiesce to our liaison for giving us that information. So, I see all 4 are here. How would you like to handle it?
Well, I'll put forth to the board. My thought is that if we wanted to ask each to just present why they want to be on the board.
That's a good
Okay,
idea.
that was the best.
Give their
That was my
name and-
first question.
Yeah.
That'd be
Okay.
great.
So, who wants to go first?
Yep,
Yes,
sure.
while you're doing...
And it may
We're back after a 5-minute break. And Tammy Wyman is going to be our first interviewee for the vacant position on the Housing Authority. Tammy, welcome.
Thank you. Do you just want me to start talking about myself, or?
Well, what brought you here?
Yeah.
Maybe that would be good.
Okay, well, I'm a Townsend resident. I live on 22 Scott Road. I don't know if that's important to know. I am a licensed real estate agent in the state of Massachusetts, so I obviously have an interest in housing in general. I have a particular interest in low-income housing. I have a lot of low-income friends and family, so it's important to me that they have a place in Townsend to live as well. I feel very fortunate to be a homeowner, but I know a lot of people that aren't, or that they're struggling. Rent is really expensive in this area. Houses are really expensive in this area. I know that we're working on a veterans project. I do have an interest in veterans as well. My father was a veteran, my stepfather was a veteran, so there's a lot of veterans in my family. But it's, especially after listening to the Soldier On project, even after we do the feasibility study, that's 3 years for them to get funding. And that's a huge amount of time where we could also, in my opinion, be working on other projects too, like, more affordable housing, apartment buildings. I know that we were interested in expanding Turnpike Village. I saw that on the website. Is that something that we're still?
That's very old.
Oh,
That's
really?
old.
Yeah.
So that's not, but
It's
I mean.
completed.
Oh, it is? Wow, wow, the website is out
Really
of
old.
date. And we do need, in my opinion though, we're at what, 4.8%, we need
Yeah.
to be at 10?
Yep.
So we need more housing, we need more units, even if it's, getting Habitat for Humanity to come build a few houses.
We did one off of Emery Road a few years back, and that was, again, a lengthy project that came out very successful, So that would mean looking at the other land that we do have and be able to do that. We have talked about that at previous meetings because, like you said, this is a long project.
Yeah. And I guess that's kind of it in a nutshell. I'm just interested in, getting us as close to that 10% as we can be.
And what's your availability for meetings and such?
I'm completely available. As a real estate agent, I'm relatively flexible in what I have to do. I can rearrange showings and stuff. This is 2 meetings a month on Wednesdays, so that's, and then obviously behind the scenes, research and stuff. And I have the time.
How long have you been in real estate?
I got my license, I actually only got my license in October, and I started working in the blood team with Keller Williams in March, so not really that long, but, I'm still licensed. I'm as aware of the law as anyone else with a license.
Okay, any other questions?
All set.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
so much for coming.
Of course.
Really appreciate it. Oh, I think we should sandwich the man in between the women. Come on, Paul. Is that why Russell withdrew? So you could be outnumbered?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
Welcome.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right. Paul Martin, I'm the resident of Townsend. I'm also the current commander for the VFW here in Townsend. And I'm also, once confirmation gets going, I'll be senior vice commander for the district. So my plan is, keep moving up. And this is one way I can also help out, besides within the VFW, help out with the housing area and see that, the vets are, meeting their needs, and that, there are others that are out looking for them. I'm also, getting ready to retire from the military next week.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations, and
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
How long have you been in?
It'll be 33 years.
Thank you.
And, I do have a vested interest to look out for the veterans. Again, I'm outnumbered by by them, so I'm hoping to make an impact that I can, be part of the team to move this forward. And, you know,
I wish we had more vacancies.
Yeah.
yeah.
I can make a motion. That would work.
I mean, did you have any questions that you're looking for?
Well, the same. What is your availability? I mean, because you commander or vice.
I'm the commander for the VFW here in Townsend. And, you know, I do have the flexibility because I am retiring, so I do have a little bit more flexibility there. I mean, once the dust settles, you know, I have plenty of time.
Great.
Unlike that one, too, she's retired. So she has time, too.
Okay.
But, you know, I'm looking to help fill the vacancy with my perspective.
Okay.
What do you feel is the best way to get to it? Tammy said it. We didn't have to ask her. She had already said it. What's your view on the best way to get to that 10% number?
That 10%, keep doing with what's being done here. Get it out through the public, either by the TV, social media, whatever means it is, also by word of mouth. That travels as well, too. And, that, you know, once you know that you're hearing it from people that care about it, no matter who gets put into the position, as long as the word keeps getting out by, you know, like I said, word of mouth, social media, newspapers, any type of media that, you know, people keep voicing it, you keep sounding it, it's not going to escape people's mind no matter how long the process takes. You know, it doesn't matter, you know, what somebody says, as long as you know, explain everything as open as it is, people will, you know, will keep it in mind. People will have the words go out, and it'll stay in people's mind. That's what you need to do, is keep it in their mind.
And that's why we're thankful for Hartley taping
Right.
the meetings, because it gets the message out there of what we need. And not everybody gets to come to the meetings. So hopefully that does spread the word.
Right, and that's what I want to do, is, you know, keep serving, not, you know, just the, you know, the veterans here in Townsend, but throughout the areas, right until, you know, I can no longer do it myself.
Well, I think
It
the
never
other
stops.
thing that we're hoping, because, you know, well, we thought we had 4 good people, and then we only have 1 vacancy, is that you still continue to participate, all of you, you know, in a progressive way that will help the community. 'Cause
Right.
that's what our goal is.
And, you know, whoever does get in it, if it's not me, I'll still be coming to the meetings, I'll still lend my support, and, you know, I'll back up whoever gets into position, because we're all working towards the same goal, the veterans.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you for coming.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Okay,
You.
next up in the hot seat.
Now, this position is also up as of next year, and then it's a voted position, so, right? 2019.
This was an elected position. I
Yep.
probably should have made that clear. It probably was clear in the posting that we have a vacancy of someone that just resigned, Susan Congdon, and we thank her for her service. And so her seat is up in 2019. So next year, whoever is in the position would run again. Well, hopefully would run again. I mean, this position is only until the next election. I guess that makes it clearer. So welcome, Natalie.
Hi,
Thank you
nice
for
to
coming.
meet you. I'm Natalie Call. I moved to Townsend about a year ago from Pepperell. My husband grew up in Pepperell. And we
A
just
big
bought
move.
a house. Oh, yeah. And I saw how much the apartments cost, you know, around the area. Luckily, we were able to buy a house using my VA benefits. 25 years retired military. I retired 13 years ago. Served in Iraq. I have 5 kids, 4 chickens, 3 Yorkies, and maybe getting some goats. But I just retired from my part-time job here in town, so that way I could stay at home. I also go to school. I go to Middlesex Community College, part-time.
Where did you just retire from, if I may ask?
Hannaford's.
Okay. All right.
Because I'm a disabled vet as well. So after
Okay.
serving in Iraq and everything, and as a woman too, it's a lot of different things. and I'm active with the Townsend VFW. I'm going to be the senior vice commander of the VFW. And so we go, not just our area, we go throughout the state for training and VFW conventions this weekend over in Leominster. So you go out there and network, and I do a lot of social networking in a positive sense of the term to put information out. I have friends that are in my old unit, the 323rd, that deployed to Iraq in 2003, 2005, and we all came back. So they're all over the state, all over New England, let's say. So you get the information out there. I got friends that live in Groton, friends that live in Ashby, Leominster, all over the place. So for them to know there's affordable housing, I know what I used to have to get an apartment, and I know how expensive it can be. And as a veteran, and being a female veteran, it's even harder. But there is hope. It's getting better and better and better. And to increase that to 10%, it's all in the networking. It's all who you know. It's talking to Sheila Harrington. It's talking to Nikki Songas, talking to the state, just going to these events that they're doing and putting yourself out there. They're not going to come to you. You have to go to them because they're out there promoting their business, their politics, their issues for their constituents. We're their constituents. Make this their issue for next year's election. Make it count, whether it be veteran housing or low-income housing or senior housing. We matter. Ashby, Townsend, Pepperell. We're all in the same boat. Shirley, Air. I used to work at Devon's. So we're all in it for the same reason. If we go as a group, we're going to succeed. If we go by one, forget it. And that's just my opinion. But I'm retired, so I'm at home with the chickens and the dogs, and yeah. So I have a lot of free time, but I just joined, close your ears, Paul. I just joined the senior center, and I'm also a member of the Lions Club, as well as the VFW, as well as the Elks too. It's not just that, it's just the idea you have to get out there. If you don't, how's anybody going to know what's going on? That's just it. That's anybody.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, again, like I said, thank you all for coming and putting yourself out there with us. And we wish we could take all of you.
Yeah.
So, thank you. So, I gather there's no other questions. I'll entertain a motion to appoint one of the three that we heard to the vacant seat.
Before we do that, can we do this by submitting who we think to the chair as like a secret, not a secret ballot, but you know what I mean?
Okay?
Does that make sense?
Yeah, we've never done this before.
I know.
We keep having things that we never did before, so learn something new every day.
Oh, that's bad.
So, okay, why don't how about if I just pass this paper along, starting down there, and you can just put who you want, and I'll announce the winner as the chair.
I think we should be very careful to keep this sheet because just in case.
It's my sheet.
Well,
Nobody can take it. No, And the winner is Natalie.
oh,
So, I expect to see you all, though.
oh my gosh,
It was unanimous.
it was unanimous.
So, it's nothing against anybody that's here, so
Everybody
it's
is
passion.
good. Everybody is good, but yeah, that's.
Thank you for your passion.
They
Thank
won't
you.
dare not call you back, Natalie.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Natalie as an appointed board member to the Housing Authority and then move this to the selectmen for approval.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Hearing none. It's been moved to move Natalie's name forward to the Board of Selectmen for appointment. And we'll try to get that done right away so that, and send it to the selectmen so that hopefully it's done at their next meeting. And then, just so that everybody knows, our next meeting is June 20th. And the, because that's what we picked last month. And that will be, I don't know what room or what time at this point or what the agenda will be, but certainly in the next 2 weeks that will be done, or less than that, it will be out there. So, thank you again, all of you. The next thing on our agenda is the mail,
The mail.
and there was just one.
There was a banking thing that'll go in the trash. This is, and there's a lot of these in the files that I started to try to sort.
They should be shredded.
They should be shredded, okay. It's just a very sad story I wish I didn't have to read about some homeless people that are trying to find a place, and we just don't have that kind of place in Townsend, sadly.
So that'll be shredded. The other thing I'd like to say if I may, before we...
Well, can I just, on that particular agency, I just saw the letterhead real quick. If maybe we could jot a letter out to them explaining that we don't
There's
have...
a template.
Okay.
There is a
Is it at your
template.
office?
I sent you over a couple of
okay.
attachments. I would just say that we don't own any property for, but thank you for your...
Is it okay to use my email to do it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
If you don't mind doing that, because we don't have individual town emails. So, and then the other thing I just wanted to say was a recent experience that I've had with condominium well, let me just say this, condos in general. They tend to be more affordable for everyone, not just veterans, but for everyone. And a couple, I don't know the date, but a couple of years ago, within this last 4-year period anyway, all the condominium complexes, so this might be a tip of the day or whatever, information of the day, were given a time frame for their approval of VA or FHA funding. Well, a little bit ago, all of them expired. And in order for them to be renewed, they'd have to go through the process again. Many of the condominium complexes refuse to do it because it's very expensive to do it. So they would have to have budgeted time and money to have something like that done. So we have one complex here in town with townhouse condos. Well, we actually have two. And we have another condominium apartment style complex. None of them are VA or FHA approved. That's sad.
Well, what's the ratio that they have to be now to be FHA approved? Didn't it used to have to be like two-thirds?
What do you mean?
There was a percentage for an apartment.
Ownership.
Right.
Ownership
Or
percentage.
owner-occupied.
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 Well, in all of the ones that we have in town, they're more than 50% owner-occupied, all of them, even including the country estates. It's more than 50% owner-occupied, but they don't have the money to go through the process of making them VA approved. There was a time when it was allowed for waivers to be had because they were spot. They wouldn't be mostly all VA or all FHA. So they were spot anyway and got spot approval. I understand that's not now allowed. There's another condominium complex that we have in town. There are only 6 or 8 units. They're all owner-occupied, all of them. That should be VA approved. West Meadow, maybe there's 2 rentals in the complex, and then the rest of it is owner-occupied. That's a perfect situation and they allow a dog. And I know people who are back from Iraq and have a dog because of their and it's not VA approved. So it's really sad to see that from, and I see it more often because I'm in real estate, that you can't get good housing or affordable housing for veterans. So hopefully we do make a...
Sort of on a side note, and it's too bad that she left, but Tammy brought up the Habitat
Yep.
home. Sort of, because let's face it, the town could use something they're proud of, could use a little more positive. If we could get started, it's only one house, so it's not a big help towards our number. We need big help towards our numbers. But I think too, if we could start a project like that, something the town could get involved in and feel good about. I think as a community, I think Townsend needs that now.
The two people that were heavily involved in the Habitat house that was built was Michelle Cannon and Chris Johnson and Kathy Arujo. And Kathy was the staff person. So yes, and I was on the housing at the time. We all had jobs. We all contacted like community businesses and got help from them. Contractors were involved. There's a lot of the community that came together and did portions of what that project was. And yes, it was only one, and yes, they did have a lottery, and it went to a very nice family who was in
And that
an
was a lot of
apartment with
work.
kids, and it was a lot of work.
For one
and
unit.
those, yeah, and the people that were involved in that though, because Habitat gets involved with you, so it's not totally on the town. But the people that were involved in that were passionate. They were passionate about getting that done. Everybody was proud when it was done.
Well, I agree with Tammy when she said to expand the housing, and this is what when we had our master plan, our housing plan approved, part of that was to develop new strategies with other boards. Those other boards, we really need to investigate more time to work with them. The zoning board would be one in regards to what we talked about tonight.
And planning and the bylaw changes
need
to
all
I don't know
of
if it's
that.
necessarily within our range to say this, but I'd like to see us do housing. That's why the VA, I've talked to everybody about my dad, they all know why I want to do that, but not just the VA housing, more 55 plus, because I don't want to tax the school system.
Yeah. But if we work with zoning and the apartments or if we work with zoning, there is the ability for us to have people maintain their home and have additional housing that we can add to our inventory as well. Our big thing, well, my big thing is to make sure that we have the tax revenue base to get it and keep it here. That's what we need to do. So we need to be a little more thinking outside of the box.
Right.
For that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
The building of the single-family home and stuff like that, hopefully we can do another Habitat project. And the Soldier On concept of having the condo co-op ownership is also great because they are all responsible for their taxes. Just like a garden-style condo, anybody, owning them, they're responsible for that rather than rentals.
Right.
So, I don't know how that works on the Turnpike Village, which was they're all rental units. They're all counted towards our affordable count and are a big part of it. I'm not sure that they got any kind of a tax break, but that's a good question, though, to know, because there should be a benefit to a developer doing something like that to make that count. I was very sincere with Diane Glidden in thankful that she wanted to have moderate housing,
That's we need more of that in town.
So, because her unit's been there 18 years, and part of that bylaw was that it's supposed to be monitored, okay? And the monitoring of the town of these things kind of went through the cracks, and now I'm glad that we know through that accessory apartment guideline that the Housing Authority will oversee that.
Yep. Or an appointed person. It could be a town, somebody in administration, but somebody needs to hold the record and keep an eye out on it.
I don't think we're ready to make a motion of what that position is
No,
going
we
to
need
be
to talk
until we
about
get
that
more
a little bit
information,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I
I need to
don't
find
want
out.
it to be something, I think we need to be careful to make sure it's something that doesn't hinder the homeowner, or why would they bother with it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
Well, the monitoring has to be by the guideline.
Yeah.
So
Right,
it's just a
but-
matter of who's going to
Right.
do it.
And then how are we monitoring them? Yep, there's your lease, good job. Or, you
Yeah.
know, that's not so, tell them what to
Invasive.
do with their property.
Right,
you know.
right, invasive.
It's really a review of what they have submitted for their application. We need to make sure that they're still in compliance with that application.
I know we
So-
need to work on that, we need to just streamline it a little.
Right,
So the
and
guys
we
in
need,
the
but
file.
what I'm saying is we need to have more of that. I think that would,
Yeah.
one piece of it, yes, looking into a Habitat for Humanity and looking for another major project. You know what I mean? So having all of this together and the way it timelines out, you know what I mean? I think we can keep our hands quite busy in the next 5 years.
Yeah, okay. Any other comments from the audience? We'd like to have public comments here, because everybody's welcome.
Take all the help we can get.
Yeah.
I would like to
anything
make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Is there a second?
third, fourth.
Okay, so we are adjourned after saying thank you, Hartley.
Thank you so much for everything.
We are adjourned at 9:06.